Assalamu alaikum all. Welcome to today's episode where I talk about Muslim investment options for beginners. Now, one of the things is that as a beginner, I know it can be quite tricky deciding what to invest in, what is halal, what is not halal. And it's essential that we make sure that our investments is halal. And it's one of the most common questions that gets asked by me, because I've been doing this for a while now, in terms of what can I invest in and, is it halal? So today I'm going to be talking about the different options that are available to Muslims as beginners. So just want to say welcome to Simple Muslim Money, which is all about simple halal investing and personal finance for Muslims. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is an Islamic savings account. I'm very surprised like a lot of people don't even have one of these. And it's basically, we just keep our money just in regular bank accounts. However, there are Islamic options out there. So in the UK, we've got Gatehouse and Al Rayyan Bank, and you can set up like an ISA, which is like a tax-free sort of way of saving money. And you just kind of just invest your money in there, and then you get a share of the profits. And that process is known as, I believe, Madaraba. So it's a profit sharing. So instead of interest, you get profit sharing. So you're actually making a bit of a return on your money. So, what I generally use this is just for my emergency fund money that I need quick access to. So, I usually try and have about 6 months worth of expenses saved up in there. At the moment, I don't. I'm kind of like building it up bit by bit. But inshallah, we're kind of getting there. So that's a really good option. Something, I definitely recommend a lot of people to have, in my opinion. But this is not investment advice. I can't give that. So I definitely have to put that disclaimer out there. Another thing is that your money is protected usually in these sort of savings accounts. So for Gatehouse and Al Rayyan, from everything I've seen, it's protected by the FCA in the UK. So if anything happened to those banks, then we're kind of covered up to about £85,000. So it's a really good option. I know a lot of people are scared to invest and save money and put money away into things like that, but it's a really, really good option and something that anyone can do and very easy to set up. The next thing I want to talk about is Islamic index funds, which I've kind of spoken about so much on the channel. But essentially, the way they work is you just put your money in and it gets into a basket, puts into this basket of money, which just kind of spreads it out amongst the top sort of companies that meet Sharia sort of compliance guidelines. So there's an index called the MSCI World Islamic Index. I use the HSBC myself at the moment, although that could potentially change in the future, and just kind of automatically invest the money for me across a whole bunch of these companies. And if a company isn't doing really well, then it kind of drops out and get replaced by the next company. They're fantastic. They're a really good way to build wealth and something that's recommended by a lot of people out there. And Warren Buffett is like the best investor ever. I can recommend that most people just invest in this. And if we invest our money in that for the long term, I'm talking about 20, 30 years, it could do fantastically well, as long as we kind of regularly put away some money into that. So just start off with £10, £20. You don't start with anything much. Just to get, I think it's just about building out muscle and just kind of understanding how the process works. That's what makes a lot of people scared. And I've been doing this for a good 10 years now. And initially for me as well, it's quite scary. I was like, oh my gosh, what's happening? I don't really know much about this, but it is actually quite simple to do and something I definitely believe most people kind of get used to. And the other thing I would say, these Islamic index funds is about building your wealth. So it's at the stage when you kind of really want to build your wealth. So, and then, as you get closer towards retirement, you can then kind of use a slightly different strategy. But I think most people just don't invest enough money at all, because we want to get those big earnings, those big kind of returns. And that doesn't happen if we don't kind of put more money into funds and investments and things like that. Then later on, we can sort of tail it off and make it kind of more conservative, which is what I'm planning to do as well. But at the moment, I'm just kind of investing as much as I can into these sort of Islamic index funds. And another thing is, don't invest in single stocks. That is very risky. No one knows what happens, how they work, who decides how these stocks go up and down. It's so volatile, and even the experts, they don't really know what they're doing. So the best thing I recommend is just the index fund. It's a passive system. It's just used by an algorithm, and there's kind of no thinking involved. It's just kind of just done just like that. And then the third thing I want to talk about is your workplace pension. This is a fantastic thing that's offered to most people, and your employer will pay money into your pension. It's one of the things that's pretty standard in the UK and around most of the world. So when you're working for a company, make sure you take that money. So you generally have to invest a bit yourself. So potentially if you invest 3 or 4%, the company will then give you 3 or 4% or maybe even a bit more. And they'll put that into your pension as well. So that's something we definitely want. And I know as a young person, you think, oh, what's the point of a pension? That's going to be for when I'm later on down the line. But no, the sooner you start your pension, the better. Another, there are two big advantages of pension. One is tax relief. So when you put pension money into your, from your salary into your pension, it doesn't get taxed. It only gets taxed on the way out. But at that point, worry about that when you retire, and there's things you can do to, reduce that tax burden. But number two is that, you need to make sure that your pension is actually invested in an Islamic fund. Now, some people put money into their pension and just leave it as per normal, and then it just gets invested into a standard fund, which may not be permissible for sort of Muslims. So it's important just to kind of switch it as soon as you can. And then the next thing I want to talk about, and this is like a really big one, is invest in yourself. So recently I've just invested in this YouTube course from Think Media. I watch a lot of their stuff, and I thought, let me just have a go, try the course out. And so far, it's been quite good. And this has the potential to earn me a lot of money if the YouTube stuff kicks off and it does quite well and I make some income from it as well. So that's why I'm kind of investing in this myself. It's $1,000, but however, it can kind of do really well for me in the long term. And then you made me thinking about, what about real estate and property and things like that? Now, the issue I have with those is usually you need a lot of upfront money to put into that. And also, there could be a lot of work and things like that to do. Especially if you want to buy a property, do it up. There's so much expenses and things that go on with it. There's headaches, especially if you're renting it out and then, the person that you rented it doesn't pay you back. Oh my gosh, what a headache. A lot of people think when you have a property it's quite easy. It's not. There is a lot of stuff involved. You could also potentially invest in real estate investment trust, which is a REIT. And there's so many options and stuff like that out there. But I think from my research, what I've seen is just to keep it simple, invest in Islamic index fund, and that's what I'm planning doing where most of my money is. And it's something like anyone can do. Literally, investment is not complicated, from a logical, mathematical, whatever point of view. It's all in our heads. It's always in our head. That's the key thing to be aware of. And then another type of investment is private investments and venture capital. So this might be investing in a company, your friend's company, or a restaurant or something like that. Those things can be very risky and your money is usually tied up for a long time. However, they could potentially give you big rewards, but this isn't something I wouldn't put majority of my money. Majority of my money is probably in my Islamic index funds, money in the pension, and I've got my emergency fund. This is just just maybe a little bit here or there. I might put in if I really know what I'm doing, but now this is for later on down the line once I've got a good investment sort of set up. And then the next one is, a lot of people I know, a lot of Muslims are really interested in crypto and things like that. And what I do is I just invest a little bit of my money in crypto. I'm keeping it there for the long term. I'm talking about 10, 20, 30 years. If it does really well, that'd be amazing. But I'm prepared to potentially lose all my money in crypto if it doesn't work out. However, I do think Bitcoin's going to do really well, and I've also kind of invested some in Ethereum as well. Okay, just want to say, if you've liked this video, please check out my other video where I talk about, is compounding your investments halal, and how your investments grow in a compounding way. What does that mean? And is it something permissible for Muslims? Assalamu alaikum.